Hello, this is Dr. Stanley Lang, and welcome to this broadcast. This is a continuation of a series on hangouts and broadcasts on using a whole person approach to health for the purpose of helping to control diabetes. Now, these same principles obviously could be applied to any chronic disease, but the focus is on diabetes because it's one of the most common problems that are facing people nowadays. And there's, I think, an insufficient understanding of the connection between chronic stress and how that affects the diabetic development and diabetic control. So today I'm focusing on emotional health, which is in the context of this whole person health approach, which is represented by this triangle showing the interrelationship between health of body, mind, and spirit. And I believe that I've seen this many times in my patients, that those that approach health in a body, mind, spirit approach are healthier, and they have a higher chance of attaining their goal of being well, even if they have a condition. But in the case of diabetes, the good news is that very often you can actually reverse it if you have the right tools and the right strategies at your disposal. Now, I've discovered over the years that only about 10% of people are able to really use simple disciplines like eating right and exercise and take that and lose weight permanently, which is, of course, the big key in most diabetics. And the reason that most people can't do that is for two reasons that are actually interlinked. Number one, they have a self-image that has been wounded, and they actually see themselves on the inside as somebody that is not well. They see themselves as somebody not deserving the blessings of God. They see somebody that is overweight. And when they get too far away from that self-image, it's like there's this bungee cord attached to them and to the self-image. And as they start to change and they get farther and farther away from that self-image, if the self-image hasn't been fixed, the bungee cord snaps them back eventually through some sort of series of things that they will do to undermine their long-term goals. And I see this a lot of times in people that really are sincerely wanting to change, yet they fall over and over again. And I know that you see this also. You've seen this in yourself, probably in different areas, because in a sense it's the human condition, but you've also seen it in people around you. Now, the second area that seriously influences this self-image issue is the experience of chronic stress. Now, when you're under more and more chronic stress, it magnifies the effect of this self-image controlling your external behaviors. When you're not under a lot of chronic stress, or the chronic stress is intermittent and not severe, the self-image issue that I just described isn't as controlling. Now, it's always there if it hasn't been healed as kind of a landmine to step on, but it is a huge issue if there's a lot of chronic stress that hasn't been dealt with at the same time. So emotional health is crucial if you want to have health of body, mind, and spirit, and if you want to have good diabetic control, if you want to even go a step farther and reverse your diabetes. Now, I've talked in a lot of different videos of different strategies that one could use to get better emotional health. And I'm just going to mention one today. I'm not going to go into detail because I go into a lot of detail on what this is, this technique is, in our membership site that is called Heal the Stress, Lose the Weight. And we have a whole large section that teaches people how to do this technique, which is called the Emotional Freedom Technique. Now, EFT, or the Emotional Freedom Technique, has been around in various forms since the 80s or before. However, it has evolved a lot, and the approach that I use is an overtly Christian approach. The reason I do that is that I have seen EFT taken by people who have a variety of different worldviews, and they insert different spiritual principles and worldviews into the whole technique of EFT. So what EFT does essentially is that it takes a toxic feeling, a toxic emotion, an emotion that is controlling you. Like if you remember some event in your life that was traumatic and all of a sudden you feel these strong feelings, that's a controlling or toxic emotion. And EFT has the ability to completely eliminate or to largely eliminate the intensity of that negative feeling. And what I do in our EFT program is to integrate the Christian faith experience into it so that it becomes like a prayer. And so it's not something that is only a technique. It's a technique that integrates spiritual principles at the same time. It's a very powerful technique. Now, it's not the only way to do EFT, but it's a very effective way. And if you have a Christian worldview, or even more if you have a Christian faith experience, I think it's the best way to do EFT. So in the summary of this particular video later in the week, we'll go into this in a little bit more detail, but still it's a much more complicated subject than can be covered even in that. As I said, it's covered in a lot of detail in our membership site. So the point being that there are strategies out there to help you overcome emotional pain that is contributing to the chronic stress in your life. You can experience healing, and I want to give you hope that that's a possibility. And you don't need to have years and years of psychoanalysis and a whole lot of medications to get there. So I want you to have hope that that is possible, but also want to encourage you to face that part of your life where chronic stress is in control and to purpose to do something about it, understanding that it is having a big effect on your diabetes, if you are diabetic, or whatever other chronic condition you may have. And it's having a big effect on whether you can experience healing in your self-image. So I wish you well with these strategies. Have a good day, and God bless.